So, you know Munchkin, right? No, not that one. Not that one either. Yeah, that's the one. Me and Big Steve wrote that. It was a huge runaway success, won an Origins Award in 2000, and so I figured that this was as good an anniversary as ever to mark. You remember the year 2000, right? Millennial Doom, firework displays not working properly in London, the Y2K bug, Britney Spears was still sane, and Coldplay hadn't yet had enough time to bore us all into a coma. Good times. In the years leading up to that, we've been trying to get some traction in starting up as a new RPG company. We figured to start with, we could try and get some freelancing for existing companies. Ah, the naivety of youth. And so, optimistically, we gathered a master list of RPG companies and threw out a bajillion different inquiries over email. A handful of companies wrote back, we wrote back to them with our list of ideas, a whole bundle of proposals for game ideas that were barely described in a sentence or two. A few companies wrote back again, asking for more detail or requiring sample work. For a brief period, we were in line to work on the new edition of Chill, but then the company went tits up. That left us with one remaining lead, Steve Jackson Games. On the face of it, knowing me as you do now, you might find that a bit of an odd fit. SJG's forums are a bit, well, archly conservative is a phrase that springs to mind, and they're not entirely open-minded on the kind of filth that I like to purvey, certainly not nipples. Still, these were younger, fresher times, but much to me and Steve's chagrin, the idea that seemed to capture SJG's attention wasn't any of our cool game ideas, or any of the licenses we'd managed to wangle. For a year, I held RPG development rights to Peter F. Hamilton's work. Nobody was interested in moving forward with it. No. It was, of all things, the idea that we'd slapped down as a joke. A comedy book on how to cheat in RPGs. A guidebook on how to be a bad player, the kind who fudges rolls, doctors his character sheet, lies, and wants to be a ninja all the time. We shrugged our shoulders and seized the opportunity, drawing on a massive amount of experience with Munchkinism, both from tabletop games and from enduring a certain amount of time in the Camarilla LARP organization. We just let it all out. From the venting of our collective spleens came that notorious book of RPG humor, and everything that came after it. Steve went back to his day job, but the door had been opened for me to get into RPG freelancing. The Munchkin's Guide led to the Slayer's Guides for Mongoose, as well as Blue Magic and the Quintessential Temptress. Combining that freelancing with my own works, so I was not getting pigeonholed, took me on. SJG gave me my first break. My first professional work won the Oscar of Gaming, the On Origins Award. Not bad. Still, there was trouble brewing. Seizing on the success of the guide, SJG followed up with some moderately successful D20 books, which, at the time, I didn't feel qualified to write for, as I hadn't yet gotten to grips with D20. Trying to follow up, nothing happened, but I didn't feel it was too much of a loss. Then came the card game. Yes, me and Steve's book not only saved SJG, so I'm told, but spawned their remunerative bovine, Munchkin. A card game which now has every possible expansion and addition you could think of, from Munchkin Anteaters to Munchkin Zombies. Do we see a penny of that? Do we fuck? Not that we're bitter, you understand. No, seriously. While I never pass up an opportunity to grumble about it, I wouldn't be where I am today without that first break from SJG. Still, it would have been nice to have been involved in some way with the card game, since it all came off the back of our work. I'd still love to work on something for the card game, but somehow I think that the moment, if you can call a decade or so a moment, has passed. Working on Munchkin was unlike anything else I'd ever worked on. My process is completely different now. Back then it was much more cooperative. We split up the chapters, but cross-read and edited and added to each other's work. It's the only time I've actually worked with an editor, Phil, rather than just submitting work to an editor to get unrecognisably mangled and have all the artistry, familiarity, character and soul ripped out of it, with all the uncaring viciousness of a starving velociraptor. We also got everyone and their goat to breed it. Cut bits that didn't make people laugh, expanded bits that did. Even non-gamers, like my dad, got in on the proofreading. Not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with my process now. I can still make people laugh, and the other comedy books have done pretty well. Still, like a three-legged Miss Universe, the guide was unique. It was a combined effort, and it came out of the RPG situation at the time. We were all gaming, in biggish groups, almost every weekend, and so we had plenty of stories. I was almost always the games master, which gave me that perspective, and Steve, well, everyone in Steve's family is a munchkin at something. His dad is the DIY master, his mum is a cook extraordinaire, and as well as his technological skills, which elite, Steve is good at wringing the most bang for his buck out of any game system, something he also shares with another friend, Geeky Steve, who can also bring the cheese. Maybe it's something to do with the name Steve. It's also a lot of Steves, requiring the addition of adjectives. Big Steve, Little Steve, London Steve, Medium Steve, Geeky Steve. But I digress. 10 years on, and nothing else I've done seems to have outshone that book in terms of cultural gaming impact, commercial success, or spin-offs. And while that's a shame, it's also a source of pride that we did something that great on our first try. Now I just want lightning to strike in the same place. And it would be nice to do something, anything, to do with the card game. Kudos to John Kovalik, or however you pronounce it, for the artwork on the Munchkin card games. I originally wanted you to do more of the art in the original book, and it's great to see that you've made the card game your own. See you next time, folks.